Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. We have a short period of time together, so I am gonna kind of jump right on in. But as you're coming in, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here this afternoon. My name is Nicole Meyer Emery. I am an Include Me specialist with the ARC of Pennsylvania. I am here today. We're going to talk about social capital. I'm here with Jen Hips as well. She is also an Include Me specialist. And here we go. So we know that it can be confusing. We know that some parents feel like they need to study to get their kids out of school. So our goal for our time together here is to help to try to ease those concerns. Like I said, we're talking about social capital this month. Last month, we talked about the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and we also talked about supports coordination. You can find those recordings if you weren't with us on our Padlet, and I'm hoping someone in the background is going to drop that for you, so you have that Padlet link, and you can also find it all of the information on that website. As always, with all of our trainings, all of our time together, this is a safe zone. So please feel free to share your thoughts, ideas, opinions, all of that without fear of any of that negative feedback. All are welcome here. We want to have a lively discussion with you all. So as we always do, we're going to start today with a Mentimeter. And I'm actually gonna stop sharing here in a second. Nancy's gonna pull it up, but we would love you to go to menti.com. You can scan the QR code or go to the link, www.menti.com, and then use the code 82499541 to answer the questions with us today. So I'm going to stop sharing. I think we got that dropped in the chat, right? Yep.
Yep, we're good.
All right. I'm going to stop sharing, Anthony.
Thanks, Nicole.
Mhm.
Just like Nicole mentioned, my name's Anthony Chan. I am helping out with some of the surveys that we take so that way we can get your feedback and also just get a sense of where everyone's at for this training. So we're going to start with a quick icebreaker activity at menti.com. You can just go to menti.com and use the code 82499541, as you can see on the screen, to log in, and we'll start collecting your responses. Really, we are trying to um, figure out, what's your familiarity with our topic today. And we also want to get your feedback for future topics because this is going to be the last transition session for this year. And we want to hit the ground running next spring with all new topics that are going to be relevant for you guys. And I see a couple of you guys have joined already. That's great. For those of you not familiar with this kind of online survey, we're just doing a quick icebreaker right here. So we just want to get your hot take. Is it rude to recline your seat on an airplane? Are books always better than the movie? And would dogs make better drivers than cats? And you just, click along the scale whether you disagree or you agree with those statements. And it looks like we've pretty much got everyone to respond to this one. And it looks like we're pretty divided on whether or not you want to recline your seat on an airplane. And I don't know about you, Nicole, but if it's a long haul flight, like I'm going across the country, I'm going to recline that guy, especially a red-eye flight. I think everyone's just kind of expecting it at that point. But maybe a short flight, I'm okay with just sitting upright. My back can handle that. As far as, oh, go ahead, Nicole.
I was gonna say I'm a short girly, so for me, I don't recline my seat because I have a hard enough time trying to reach the floor to begin with. And if I recline, I'm not gonna reach the floor at all, and that's just terrifying to me. So,
That's a good point. And I did see some airlines are starting to add like little flip outs to rest your feet on, which is
mm,
pretty great for those of you who are a little bit shorter.
yeah.
Moving on to the next question, though, the book is always better than the movie. Seems like most of you guys agree. Book is always better than the movie. I talked about Lord of the Rings last night, but today I'll talk about Harry Potter. I love the books. And I think the movies were good, especially the actors were fantastic, but something about reading the text, really draws you in. So I think I'm with you guys on that one. And then it seems like a lot of you guys think cats would make better drivers than dogs. I'm a dog person at heart. Like I gotta agree with you guys. My dog was ADD personified. You see a cat, you see a squirrel, you see anything, and it's probably going to swerve off that bridge just to chase it. So I think cats are a little bit more focused, a little more intelligent. All right, so let's get into the real questions here. If you move to the next slide, you will see we just want you to type in a quick response. What do you think about social capital? What's the first thing that pops into your mind? Feel free to share it. It's all anonymous. So it's okay if you're not sure what it is. If you're just associating it with your personal network, friends, family, professionals, doesn't matter. We just want to get your responses. What do you think of social capital? Vital for all humans. Absolutely. Connections. Yeah, it's our sense of community, right? It's our neighbors, it's our friends, it's our family. Absolutely. People who connect you to opportunities, networking, exhausting, helpful though. Yeah, I didn't go to college for business, but my some of my friends did, and I was always jealous of them because half of their curriculum was literally just going on networking outings, but I can see how that's exhausting, especially for someone like me. I'm an introvert, so talking to strangers, trying to hype myself up and that sounds exhausting, doesn't it? But I hope you'll see at the end of this, it can be really valuable. Okay. Thank you guys for your responses. I'm going to keep moving to one last question here. And if you're still typing, don't worry. Feel free to keep typing and finish up your first response. We'll still be able to see that later on. But right now, we just want to know, are you aware of your local ARC chapters and are you aware of local support and advocacy groups? I think this is an overlooked part of the community sometimes. When we think of social capital, a lot of times we just think of our immediate neighborhood, our friends and family. But there's a lot of other people in our communities that are probably going through similar life experiences as we are. And ARC chapters are a great way to connect with those folks. And not only ARC chapters, but there might be other great nonprofits out there, support groups and advocacy groups. So we'll definitely tell you how to get connected with those later today. All right, looks like pretty much everyone has responded here. Seems like a lot of people are aware of the local ARC chapters. That's great. I always like to remind folks, we here, Nicole and I and Jen and everyone else on this call, we're with the ARC of PA. We're the state group, but there are also local chapters in each county or almost every county as well. So definitely reach out to them if you can't make the drive all the way out to Harrisburg. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so we can get into the good stuff. And I'll check in with you guys at the end of this PowerPoint.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anthony. I always love Mentimeter. Okay, so we are gonna move on. So if you have not joined us before for our parent sessions, welcome. Our roadmap today, we are going to do about 30 minutes. It's a little bit less than 30 minutes of that basic information. And then we're gonna have 15 minutes at the end for just some Q&A of any questions that you might have. We're here to answer them. We are not experts in the field of in a lot of fields. We do have a lot of experience. We do have a lot of great answers. And what I love about our team specifically is that if we don't know the direct answer to what it is that you are asking, we are here to help find you that answer. We're going to find you the answer to that question that you might have. So we might not be the experts, but we're here to help as much and as best as we can. We're going to send you in the right direction. Okay, so let's jump into this. So if you have joined us in the past, you might have seen this slide before, but we're going to continue to talk about it because connections are important. You need them, your student needs them. There are a lot of timelines, and the support that you can find along the way really help. You don't have to do this alone. I know the field in thinking about transition, thinking about the adult service field can be daunting, but the pieces that come together to help along the way, those are pieces of social capital. So before we get into definitions or, a whole lot of other things, we're going to actually tell you a story about Greg and see if you can pick up on some of the social capital pieces that might have happened along the way for Greg. So Greg is a young man with Down syndrome who actually grew up in Kansas State. He was mainstreamed, which means he was in general education classrooms, and in school, and he was allowed to attend classes until he was 21 years of age. So his family decided to stay until 21 for Greg to stay. At 21, Greg graduated and he was actually ready to go to work, but he didn't really know what he wanted to do after he graduated. Very common to happen for individuals to not know what they want to do, but know that they want to work. So Greg's neighbor, Alex, had just also graduated high school and he had recently gotten a job at Walmart. Although Greg and Alex knew each other and they were friends, their interactions were a little bit limited. However, on Saturdays, Alex would take Greg down to the YMCA with him, where they would volunteer together to coach an elementary basketball team. One Saturday, Greg asked Alex how he got his job because he had been looking with little success. Alex explained his dad knew the manager at Walmart and that had helped him a lot. Alex said he would ask his boss if they were hiring and also talk to his dad. The following Saturday, Alex came over to pick up Greg, but when they turned down a different street, Greg asked where they were going. Alex said, "We're not going to the Y today. We're going to Walmart. My boss wants to meet you." Greg met Alex's boss, interviewed for a position, got the job, and worked hard. Greg's hard work actually reflected positively on Alex and increased their value to the team. So in Greg's story, we see the use of informal support networks to acquire a job. In this case, from a friend next door who Greg actually just asked a question. He used his social skills, asked that question, and was able to get his foot in the door. And although it wasn't really known by Greg, Alex's father actually spoke to the manager at Walmart. He mentioned that he watched Greg grow up and described how he was always working around the yard. It was very easy to get along with, and that he was responsible because he had seen it. So Greg's story, like I said, is a really great use of social capital to kind of get your foot in the door, right? To change that mindset in a little bit, to have somebody vouch for you to get that job. So let's look at the definition. What does social capital actually mean? Well, the term generally refers to the resources, the networks, and then the value that we put on those resources. Social capital refers to our networks and our connections to that broader community, the community outside of maybe our families. We use our connection with others to solve problems and access resources. I always say that I use my social capital to find the next great restaurant in my area. Tacos are my favorite, so I always try to ask people where the best tacos are at, and that's how we use our social capital. When we're connecting with others, that's how we find out about those really great places in our community. There goes. So I love this visual of social capital because we build social capital through the connections that we have, through the activities that we engage in. So our social capital actually impacts our identity as well and how we navigate our world. Building social capital is actually a soft skill as well, and many soft skills actually get overlooked in school because we're focused on teaching our students on the job training skills, which is completely valid, right? We are trying to give them the skills to be successful in the real world when they're on the job. However, soft skills are also really important, and that social piece of those soft skills is really important. So we want children to learn, we want students to learn how to maybe read a bus schedule, or how to order from a menu, but we sometimes forget to help them build the relationships with maybe that bus driver that they're going to see on a route that is very consistent for them, or maybe a waitress that they're going to see consistently if they're eating at the same restaurant that's, down the street, or the coffee shop that's down the street from them, that they're going to be frequenting. Those social connections actually help to build your social networks and your social capital within your communities. So for many reasons, people with disabilities or people feel like they're at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to social capital, right? There can be communication issues, there might be environmental issues where spaces aren't accessible for them. There could be that aversions or stigmas or stereotypes for people within those spaces, lack of accessibility, lack of transportation to the spaces. But we know that students with disabilities actually experience more stigma and bullying and rejection, and they're more likely to drop out of school because of that. And when that happens, then their social connections actually drop, and then they have few or no connections outside of school. They have no connections within school or outside of school. All of this affects their academic, behavioral, emotional, and career related outcomes for those students. Social capital is actually a means of presuming competency. We are presuming that they are able to make friends or that they have a social life, and that we're not hindering their ability to show us what they know and what they want in life, because we are helping them along the way to make those friends or to make those connections by helping them to make a connection with that bus driver, helping them to make that connection with that waitress or barista in the coffee shop. So I want you to think, you might jot down a list if you want, or think in your head, if you needed help today, if you had a flat tire and you needed help, who would you call? Who would you trust if something really, when you had a problem in your life and you needed a trusted person to talk to? Who is on your list of contacts? Who is in your emergency contacts? Some of you might have family. Some of you might have a significant other, a best friend, or an extended relative that's on that list. But chances are you have, a list of friends that are also on that list as well. Now I want you to think about if your student, your son, your daughter, a relative, whoever it is, someone you support, or a child needed help, who would they call? The answer to all of these questions, no matter what it is social capital. That is your social capital, your social networks. We know from all of that information that we just talked about, mindset, stigmas, etc., that sometimes the social capital or the social networks for individuals with disabilities are smaller. They are encompassed of people who are paid to be a part of that circle. And chances are, if you're looking at your own list of people that are within your social networks, they're not paid to be there, that they are people that you've chosen to be there, which is why social capital is really important. We want to allow those students or those individuals to have options on their social capital in their social networks that aren't paid to be there. We know that those services that they receive, that they're really important. They're great. But sometimes we need to look beyond those services and see what those social connections could be for those individuals. And this is actually where I think Jen's gonna hop in and talk to you about some resources we have.
Ta-da! So another way to build social capital is, of course, to be part of your community and make sure your student or your child is part of the community as well, doing what they like to do and what they are involved in. And again, just that reminder, like your social capital builds and changes as you grow. And, making sure that you help your child make those social connections, but then also let those blossom and let them create their own social circles. So one of the first examples, of course, is your local ARC chapter. So like Anthony mentioned, we are the ARC of Pennsylvania. We are a statewide organization. We do certain things. Local ARC chapters across the state, and I did drop the link in where you can find the one for closest to where you live. They provide other activities and events and all sorts of different programming. So we really encourage you to reach out to them and make connections there. And that's a really good starting point. The next, if you could go ahead. Sorry, Nicole's switching slides and I'm talking, and we're on opposite sides of the stage, but we're going to make this work. Another good option is to find advocacy and support groups. So again, it could be a support group for families. It could be a support group for siblings or for individuals. You can find these in person and online. When your child might have been younger, you might have been connected to parent. So that was a way to connect families, different parents who had a child with a similar need and to share that information. So again, general specific groups across the state, across the nation, find one that works for you. Find one that you are comfortable with and learning from. Bring your friends, bring your family, get everybody involved. You might find them at your local library or local places of worship. I think our local library offers a lot of support groups, very general, but again, if it's an interest, go ahead and do it. They do game nights, things like that. So while it's not specific for individuals with disabilities, they're open to everybody to come in and learn. The newest one is how to play bunco, things like that. Go ahead, next slide, please. Another part of using your social capital, because you get to practice all of these types of things, and a very important soft skill that really is vital to humans is self-advocacy and self-help. So supporting your student, your child, in being their own best advocate, in saying, this is who I am, this is what I need, this is what helps me be successful, this is what I like, or this is what I don't like, and being able to help themselves. So again, like I just said, finding groups that are interesting for them. So if they want to play basketball, going down to the local YMCA or fitness center and seeing if they have a basketball team, making sure they're involved in meetings about them, whether that is with the Office of Vocational Rehab, whether it is their IEP meeting or any other type of family or any type of planning meeting. The person, your child, your student, the person that all of these things are going for needs to be there because it's about them and it's about their life. Help them create sort of, I call it an all about me page, which I think is used, with younger kids too, but still a sheet or some notes or some talking points about, these are my skills, these are my interests, these are my talents. This is what I'm really good at. This is what I like doing. This is what I don't like doing. So I would love to go sit in the library and read a book in the afternoon. It's nice, it's quiet, but then there's some other days where I might want to go work out at the gym, things like that. What are their goals and dreams? Let them express that however they need to, and then encourage them to share that with others. This last bullet point is such a good one. And I think about when I learned how to do this, practice making an appointment for anything, even ordering food, whether it's on an app or making a phone call, using MyChart, having access to their doctors, being able to know that, hey, you know what, I've been feeling kind of rough for about 3 or 4 days. I don't feel well. I should probably call the doctor. What's the doctor's phone number? What button do I press then to get to the right extension? What do I say when they pick up the phone or if I need to leave a message? All of those types of things. So those are all ways to encourage advocacy, self-help, and really, again, expand their social network. The next slide talks about some aspects of quality planning. So thinking about self-direction, that prioritizes the participant. So if I am the participant and I am choosing my planning and how my life is going to be and what supports and services I need and who my staff is going to be, that gives me choice and flexibility and control. So again, making sure that your student, your child is able to say, this is what I want, this is what I need. When you're talking about self-direction, the participant actually chooses their own staff, their own schedule, they train their own staff. So again, if you're coming into my home, this is my home. You're working for me and with me. So here is what I'm comfortable with you doing, and here's what I'm not comfortable with you doing. You know what? We use coasters in this house. Things like that. They set their own standards for how their services are going to be delivered, and that really goes along with advocacy and self-help. Most of us do this on a daily basis, but again, making sure this is offered to your child is a vital piece of being part of the community and really taking charge of their life. When we talk about social capital and the example that we gave with Greg, we talk about Greg was going to ultimately work at Walmart. He was also volunteering at the YMCA, and volunteering is fantastic, and most of us volunteer. Sometimes individuals with disabilities sort of get into that, or businesses think, oh, they're just going to volunteer. That's all they need to do. They might want to work. Chances are they do want to work. So making sure they have that opportunity to work and using that volunteer piece as a really nice part on a resume or as a reference. And then again, with the jobs, thinking outside the box. Oftentimes we see continually in our field that folks with disabilities are sort of allocated. There's usually 4 Fs. In the past, our team has come up with 4 Fs. Food prep and cleaning and service. Filth, cleaning and janitorial services. Flowers, simple landscaping or decorations, putting flowers together, maybe setting tables at banquet halls, things like that. Filing, so usually just shredding or doing simple mailings, maybe stuffing envelopes, maybe delivering mail, depends. Fur, working with animals, and then factories, light assembly work. So there are more than those 6 Fs. There are 16 career clusters in Pennsylvania, and there are hundreds of careers under each one of those. So while you might like working with outside, maybe it's working on a farm, maybe it's working in a local greenhouse, things like that. If that's something your child is truly interested in, that's great. But also think about what they enjoy doing. Do they like gaming? What could we tie in with that? And then again, considering with the job opportunities, it's more than self-employment. Competitive integrated employment is an option. Folks can get wonderful jobs in the community, again, using that social capital from places they visit or friends that they know. If you think about how your first job came about, or even how you've gotten from one job to the next. If you frequent a coffee shop and then you have an interest in possibly being a barista, you've got a foot in the door already by visiting that coffee shop and getting to know the staff that work there. So those are our thoughts on social capital and the importance of how that ties in to employment, ties into transition. There is a question, I'm going to let Anthony pop on with Mentimeter. I saw you guys answered that question. And this is because I'm always a huge fan of this. I just honestly would Google all about me pages and you kind of get a look at them and they're very juvenile. So I would not recommend using those. But whether it's on an app or however they best, whether it's writing, choosing pictures to put on it, sort of like a vision board. I love that idea. Typing it on a Word document or PowerPoint, things like that. Just simple, this is what I like, and think what you would put on your own. This is when I'm at my best. My best times to be working are 7 to 2:30. I would not be functional in the evenings, and I really like to do things with my families on the weekends. So all of those types of things, you just sort of make a sheet and go from there.
Yep. And we are gonna transition back to Menti. So you can go back to that. Anthony did drop the code in the chat again. We just want to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks everyone. So please take some time, jump back onto Menti. We're just going to do a quick recap. So we just want to know, you know, do you think social capital can help you with different aspects of your life? Hopefully, stories like Greg's can really highlight the power of social capital, and the different ways it can impact you. If you want to learn more about social capital, feel free to reach out to us. We do a lot of trainings, especially with school districts through our Include Me program, where we really dive deep into things like social capital for teachers, paras, and parents, and also employers too. So there's a lot of ways we can help out, or maybe even point you to other resources. We also talked a little bit about local ARC chapters and how that can be another way to just naturally expand your social capital, getting connected with other families that also have people with disabilities in their lives, and feel the need to have that community and reach out to different services and support groups and advocacy organizations. The ARC of PA's website is a good place to start. We have a map where you can find local chapters, and of course, we're not the end all be all of agencies. We can definitely direct you to more local stuff if you reach out to your local chapters and just say, hey, what's the landscape like? Are there any other agencies you work with? Because I promise you, there's probably multiple, even in the most rural counties in Pennsylvania. We're all over the place. Okay. So the last question we want to ask you guys before we break for the Q&A section is we want to know, what other topics do you want to learn about? Just like Nicole and Jen said earlier today, we've already covered OVR, so that Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, and how they can help someone find employment. We've also talked about supports coordination and what they can do when it comes to life after school. So definitely feel free to check our Padlet or our website, arcpa.org/transitions. And you can find recordings and resources and links to the Padlet about our previous sessions if you're interested in those topics. But otherwise, our plan is to meet up over the winter break and figure out what our 2025 year is going to look like in terms of these online webinars. So if you have topics you want to learn about, please let us know in the Menti survey so that we can collect those responses. We've been collecting them across all of our sessions, so we want to know what you think is important. I see some stuff going on in the chat.
I know people are answering Menti. Doreen had a question, what if our local chapter is not active? So I suggested looking at that map and getting to the next closest one. If you're comfortable sharing, or you could put it in the Q&A and let us know which chapter is your home chapter, and we can see if we have some other resources.
Yeah, and definitely, consider other agencies out there. Not just the ARC. Try as we might, we can't cover every county. So there's definitely probably other agencies like the ARC of North, or no, NEPA Inclusive is one I can think of that might be in that area if my geography is good, which it's not. So I apologize if that isn't covered. But that's what came into my head.
I was thinking during ARC NEPA, I know, and Schuylkill County is in a unique spot. I was thinking ARC of NEPA, so they're up in Scranton, or ARC of Susquehanna Valley. I can't type Susquehanna and talk at the same time. They're based out of Sunbury, but they cover Columbia, Montour, Snyder, Union County. So depending where they might have meetups, it might be closest to you.
Yeah, and there's always that good old-fashioned word of mouth too. So if you're part of a local organization, maybe a church or recreation group or anything, just ask around. Are there other agencies out there? Google is also always a good go-to, especially if you're pretty good at internet searching. Facebook might also give you some insight into local disability groups. All right. So I'll let people finish up typing, but I think we got all the responses from folks who are on Menti. We're going to switch over to the Q&A section. So we're going to stop recording and we're going to open it up to any questions.